So if I look at 5.5, 5.5 is on solving linear inequalities. So we've graphed inequalities before on a number line. We're going to graph them today on a set of coordinate axes. Okay, so we're going to learn how to test solutions in inequalities, and we're going to learn how to graph inequalities. Okay, so if I look at example 1a, I'm given the point 7.3, and the inequality y is less than x minus 1, and I need to test it and see if that point is true. So, is 7 my x or y value? X. Okay, remember your x value always comes first. That's review from last semester. Then what number is my y value? 3. Okay, so x is 7 and y is 3. So if I plug those into this equation, then I get 3 is less than 7 minus 1. What's 7 minus 1? 6. So 3 is less than 6. Is 3 less than 6? Yes. Yes. That's the first part of what you're doing. Okay, so any questions on 1A? Okay, let's look at 1B then. I'm given a point 45, and the inequality y is greater than 3x plus 2. So which value is my x value? Or what value is my y value? Okay, so if I plug those in, then I get 5 is greater than 3 times 4 plus 2. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. So 5 is greater than 14. Is that true? No, that is definitely not greater than 14. So we write no. No, you don't have to put the exclamation point. I'm just very excited about my yeses and nos today. You can if you want to. Okay, so that's the first part of your assignment. The second part of your assignment is graphing inequalities on a coordinate plane. And there are rules for graphing inequalities on a coordinate plane that we need to learn. So you need to write those down. Those are your notes for today. Everybody needs to have those written down on the top of their paper. Alright, so now let's go over what these mean. So, if you're looking at less than or greater than symbols where they do not have the line underneath, then you're going to write a dashed line. It's kind of like when we had open dots and closed dots when we graphed them on number lines. Only now that we're doing lines, we're going to have dashed lines and solid lines. So no line underneath, it's a dashed line. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, or it does include the line underneath, then you do a solid line. Okay, so there's two sets of rules here. The first one deals with how we group our lines. Okay, so solid line or dashed line, those are the first set of rules. The second set of rules is how we shade. Okay, so the second set deals with how we shade our graphs. So if it's less than, only less than or equal to, if both symbols are less than, you shade below. Okay, so you're shading underneath your line. If they're greater than or equal to, then you shade above. Okay, so less than, you think of numbers smaller, so you shade below. Greater than, you think of numbers bigger, so you shade above. Everybody follow so far? Okay, so let's actually put those to use now. We're going to use our rules. So I'm given the inequality y is less than 3x plus 4. This is just like y is equal to 3x plus 4 when we graph it. Okay, so we're going to make a table of values. So I'm going to use values 0, 1, and 2 for my x's. Remember that you can pick whatever values you want to for your x's. So in the table of values, if I plug in that 0 for x, I get 3 times 0 plus 4. So 3 times 0 is 0, 0 plus 4 is 4. If I plug in 1, 3 times 1 plus 4, what do I get? 7. And 3 times 2 plus 4. 10. 10. So if I plot those points, remember your x-axis is your horizontal axis, y-axis is your vertical axis. So over 0 up 4 is my first point. Over 1 up 7 is my second point. And over 2 up 10 is my third point. Okay, now that we have those points, now we get to look at our inequality symbol to decide what type of line we're going to have. You always look at your line rule first. So since that is less than, is it a dashed line or solid line? Dashed, right? It doesn't include the line underneath, so it's a dashed line. Okay, so I've got my dashed line. Then you go to rule number 2, which is your shading rule. And so since that is less than, am I shading above or below? Below, okay? And so do I think that what's over here on the left is below, or what's over here on the right is below? On the right, okay? So I'm going to shade on the right. Make sense? So I have 2. Okay. Let's graph one more. But I decided I didn't like that equation last time, so I made up my own. Okay, so y is greater than 2x or equal to 2x plus 4. So I'm going to make table of values. What do you guys want to use for your x's?
0, 1, 2.
2, 1, 0. Okay. So if I plug in 2, 2 times 2 plus 4 equals 8. Okay, if I plug in 1, 2 times 1 plus 4, 6, and 2 times 0 plus 4, 4. Okay, everybody see where I got those numbers from? Yes, Niles, you see where I got these from? Okay, so then let's plot those points. So over 2 up 8 on my x and y axis, over 1 up 6, and over 0 up 4. Okay, the next thing I look at is my inequality symbol. Is that going to be, look at rule number 1, my line rule. Is that going to be a dashed line or a solid line? Solid line. Okay. So I'm going to connect that with a solid line. Okay, rule number 2, how I shade it. Am I going to shade it above or below? Above, okay. And so is the side on the left or the side on the right above? Left. Okay, so I'm going to shade on the left of my line. Got it? Everybody got it? Okay. Perfect. Last thing you're going to do on your assignment is you're going to decide what type of inequality this is graphing. Okay, so we always look at rule number 1 first. So if I look at my line, is that a solid line or dashed line? Dashed line. And what symbols do we use to represent dashed lines? Greater than or less than, right? Those are the only 2 symbols that we list under our dashed lines. Okay, then I look at how I'm shading. Am I shading above or below? Below. And what symbols do we use for below? Less than or equal to. Okay, so which symbol matches then from both sets? Less than or greater than? Which one matches? Less than, right? We have less than in both sets. So I know that my inequality symbol is less than. Look at the one that is included in both sets. Okay, so if I look at 4B, if I look at my line,
That's all they do.
that's all you do. Is this a solid line or dashed line? Solid. Okay, what symbols do we use to represent solid lines? Okay, so less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. Then if I look at my shading, am I shading above or below? Above, okay, and above tells me what type of symbols am I using. Okay, so greater than or equal to. So what symbol matches both then? Greater than or equal to, right? That's the only symbol that's in both sets. So that's the one it has to be. that make sense? Okay, so let's do one more. This one's kind of tricky, but you guys are geniuses, so you'll get it for sure. What type of line is that?
Solid.
Solid. So, what symbols do I use for solid lines? Okay, so they're less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, right? We use the symbols with the lines underneath. Okay. Then if I look at where I'm shading, am I shading above or below? Above, okay, and so what symbols represent above? Or, okay, it's above because if I look at like this number, let's say this number is -2. It's kind of hard to tell with all the scribbles on the board. But let's say that's -2. Are these numbers that I'm shading, are they bigger than -2? Yeah, right, because this is like -1, 0, 1, 2. They all get bigger as you go further to the right. And since they all get bigger, we're shading above. That's greater than. Okay, that's how Fawn got greater than. That is just guessed. So, which symbol matches then in both sets?
Greater than.
Greater than or equal to. Those two symbols, right? Those are the two that match. So I know that my inequality symbol is greater than or equal to. So when it asks you to match the inequality, it's asking you to figure out what inequality sign you're using. You don't have to find the equation of the line, just which symbol you're using. Okay, and if you forget which each symbol means, I wrote them on the board over here so you could refresh your memory. We are working, that works too. Page 364, 1 through 11.